Good evening, everybody. My name is David Milne. I'm a member of the Greater Manchester Humanists. I visit schools and talk about humanism and what we represent and so on, so forth. Following on from a guy here, I'm going to be very much shorter because I think you all need it, to be honest with you. But that was, really, really interesting, you guys, by the way. So I thought maybe some audience participation might be interesting at this point. So I'm going to ask you, by a show of hands, who accepts the theory of evolution in this hall? Excellent. Okay, so that's very good. Not everybody, but lots of, yeah, it's about half, isn't it? So that's really good. Of the people who raised your hands, could I ask you to put your hands up if you're a Muslim? Will that make any difference to you? So if you just put your hand up so I can see.
Very few.
1, 2, 3.
Very few.
Very, very few, yeah.
So David, that would show you.
I suppose that I'm disappointed.
Yeah, your point wasn't proven there because I think you were trying to say that Muslims are mainly the people who reject evolution, but the people who put their hands up as being Muslim were less than the people who put their hands up saying they reject the theory of evolution.
No, I asked them whether they accepted it. I didn't ask them if they rejected it. I asked them if they accepted it as well.
Meaning they're agnostics regarding evolution.
So, yeah.
Agnostic.
I suppose I want to ask a question, and I can ask it of everybody here. So you can all get involved, because otherwise you're going to sit here listening to old people talking all evening.
Old people, David.
Well, I refer to myself.
I've got a beard.
A young person over here. If you shave the beard off, given that the great universities and the great natural history museums of the world all teach evolution by means of natural selection, given that the Roman Catholic Church and the Church of England, and indeed I would say many Muslims also accept evolution by means of natural selection, is it not the case that your opposition to evolution is because to cover the fact that you don't actually have any scientific evidence for the existence of Allah?
Thanks for your question, David. Firstly, you've really discredited your question by mentioning the Catholic Church, because if we're going to discuss rationally, that would entail that whatever the Catholic Church agrees upon or would be something scientific. So we know that the Catholic Church takes certain theological positions that are totally irrational. Like we mentioned one theological position regarding children going to hell. As for, you mentioned the great universities and natural history museums of the world. When you say of the world, would that be of Europe and America, or would that include Africa, Asia, and the rest of the world?
Well, very good question.
Because the world is much larger than London Natural Museum.
Yes. Absolutely. But pretty much...
It goes back to my Eurocentric point.
From all the countries, all over the world, accept and teach evolution by means of natural selection.
You said the entire world.
Yes.
Would that mean in the Middle East and Africa, would the universities and the museums there accept? Meaning, is there a universal worldwide consensus, or would you say there is a?
I think.
Because for me,
I would use the word universal.
For me, for instance, the Qarwiyin is the oldest university in the world.
The
Qarwiyin. Have you heard of the Qarwiyin?
No.
It's the oldest university in the world.
Yes.
Did you know that?
No.
1200 years old.
Yes.
No, Al-Azhar came after. Al-Azhar is 800 years old. In fact, it was established by the Fatimid dynasty, Al-Azhar, and then Salahuddin Ayyubi made it into a more established university. But prior to that, Fatima Fahriya established the oldest university in the world, which is still active today, which is in Fas, and it's a university, and they don't teach theory of evolution. So when you say the great universities of the world, can you please qualify that? Do you mean Oxford, Cambridge,
American universities,
yes,
German universities, French universities, Chinese universities.
Chinese,
we can make a whole list here.
Chinese communist,
But my question
Chinese
was,
communist universities.
My question-
Meaning, when we say with regard to China, if you notice, I didn't mention China because China would not permit any university not teaching something that goes against the theory of evolution. So I would exclude China due to its communist regime.
yes, but you.
So what I'm saying is your question.
They actually teach evolution by means of
David, what I would say-
natural selection.
What I would say
That's
is
a fact. So my question was, isn't it true that your opposition to evolution is because to cover the fact that you don't actually have any scientific evidence for the existence of Allah?
moving on to your.
That's my question.
I'm going to answer your question. The second part of your question, which is this part, is that my rejection of evolution theory is due to the fact that I cannot scientifically prove the existence of Allah. Your question will be answered two-pronged. I'm going to give two answers. One is
Thank you.
that the theory of evolution, even if I acknowledge the theory of evolution, it would not entail rejection of a creator.
Good.
It would
Okay,
not entail,
okay.
because a person who believes, even Christian theologians who've accepted the theory of evolution, like the Catholic Church and other Christian theologians, and you mentioned Muslims, even though I would say no Muslim theologian of prominence, distinction meaning of prominence, has accepted that as a creedal point, or in order to explain the Quran, of prominence, not isolated scientists, Muslim scientists. Even if someone acknowledges the theory of evolution, it would not entail the non-existence of. If someone accepted it, it would not entail the non-existence of God. Secondly, the scientific evidence for Allah, as you've been listening to my and Guy's discussion, we've said that science has a very limited scope, and Guy and me agreed on this. We do not say that the belief in Allah is a scientific theory, and this is something Richard Dawkins on a regular basis makes a mistake in when he critiques the existence of God. He critiques it as a scientific theory. I said it's based on.
To go back to your word observer.
I said it's.
You used the word observer.
I said.
So my question was, have you observed the supernatural, or
I said to you that,
and God has to be either supernatural and or
what I said
immaterial.
was,
therefore you have no evidence for Allah.
what I said,
it's not reasonable.
No, because what I said to you is that the belief in God is an a posteriori deductive argument, which is based, and when you make a deductive argument, it's based from things that you observe. For instance, evolution theory itself, did you observe creatures developing and going through a cycle of evolution, or was that an inductive argument based upon the remains and of skeletons and different things?
Science is
Which one would you say?
A deductive process.
Not always. Some scientific theories are inductive and do not impart certainty. Meaning,
would you not support, for example, the prosecution of, for example, murderers?
exactly.
I'm sure you would.
But you don't see that.
Most murders are actually carried out when there are no people
So
there.
you don't.
So therefore, we use science to convict a murderer.
So,
is it not,
but
is it not fair?
that is fair. Why? So it proves my point regarding a deductive argument regarding God. Meaning, it's not necessary that you see the murderer killing someone, but you know he's the murderer. You didn't see him, so observation is not always necessary in order to believe in something.
And therefore, in order to discover the murderer, you
make
have to
deductive arguments.
Science.
Not always.
Oh.
No. Do you watch episodes of Columbo? Does he always use?
Well, I'm
science?
at that age, you know, the beard gives the game away. Really. You know,
But
I do, but it's very boring.
It's not always based on deductive arguments using science. A detective can use other means of. But
could you give us the reasons why you don't accept evolution then?
Okay, now we go on to.
And maybe we could open it up to the audience, who must be very bored of hearing me speak now as well.
Okay, we'll stop there if you don't.
Yeah, sure.
We'll stop at that point.
Good.
I'll answer his point. What I mentioned regarding evolution theory was that when we observe scientific data, the information that's received sometimes may convince an individual, and sometimes it may be an inductive argument that proposes a scientific theory. The classification I gave to evolution theory was an inductive argument that does not impart certainty. And for me, it does not impart certainty. So the inductive the data presented for evolution theory, the inductive argument made from that is not the same for me as a deductive argument for God. But even if I accepted evolution theory, it would not affect my belief in God, because God could be the creator of such a process. But the reason for rejection of evolution theory is based upon the inductive reasoning of those who try popularizing evolution theory today. Meaning the popularization, I've read popular books on evolution theory, and even the books of Richard Dawkins, when you read them, a lot of rhetoric is used.
I've read them all.
Pardon?
I have read them all, by the way, you know, Dawkins.
Yeah, the blind watchmaker and all these other words. I mean, he uses a lot of metaphor. True?
No.
Of course he does.
He uses metaphor
when he discusses,
as explanation.
but it's not. It's
based upon a
inductive argument.
Scientific explanation.
Inductive argument.
Okay, let's struggle on with this for a moment. I'm going to give you a picture, and two pictures actually, and I suppose it's a little bit unfair of me really, but anyway, here we go. You need an answer, and I will
leave this
explain it to the audience. So there's a pair of pictures there, and there's one there. What I'm showing the sheikh is a picture of a whale that's broken a leg. Now, I don't just mean a protuberance, ladies and gentlemen, I mean a leg. Now, whales are marine animals, they live in the water. What possible use could a whale have for a leg? It shows that a common ancestor that gave rise to the whale.
David.
Had legs.
David.
Was a man.
David, here.
No.
Before you go on a tangent, I'm going to have to stop you. I'll tell you why. No, you can say your part. Just give me a minute. When you quote my position on evolution theory, did you listen to my position correctly, or did you listen to it partially? I'll tell you why.
You can explain it to me. You don't have to ask me whether I understood it. You can explain it.
All right, let me explain.
Go.
Okay. When I lectured on evolution theory, I mentioned that I reject common ancestry.
Yeah.
Common ancestry. Let me finish. David, common ancestry.
Yes.
I rejected
humans.
I rejected human evolution. Yes.
Okay.
And here, what you're presenting is a whale, a picture of a whale with limbs.
Yeah.
Now, a whale with limbs does not contradict me in any way or form. So even if you present a horse or a large horse, I'll say, even if that's possible, it doesn't affect belief in God.
No.
Are you understanding that point? Because the belief of a human evolution.
You keep jumping the gap. You say that if you accepted evolution, it wouldn't make any difference
No, it
to your
wouldn't.
belief in God. But the point is that you don't disagree with it.
Now you need to be very specific regarding
I have been very specific.
human
Have a look at the
evolution.
photographs.
Human evolution.
Yeah. So,
You accept non-human evolution?
Again, it's something inductive, and scientists may find a limb on a whale, or it doesn't really affect our belief if we see an animal going through an evolutionary process. It doesn't contradict our revelation. But human origins are what we say are decisive.
but we're not talking about a revelation. I'm suggesting that the leg of the whale contradicts your anti-evolution.
Again,
Of stars.
David, when you say anti-evolution, you must be very specific. We say humans do not have common origin with
Yes.
other creatures.
Yes.
Humans,
Why do you say that?
based on revelation.
What's the science? No science then.
Based on revelation.
So,
And the
no
scientific
science.
proof,
So no science then.
again, David,
Is that reasonable?
the scientific proof presented for human evolution
Yes.
is not sufficient for me.
Okay. So this picture here, ladies and gentlemen, and I've brought some more, is of a... But, yes, would you like to speak, sir? Go ahead.
So you're saying the fact that this whale has a leg is proof that it's actively evolving this is
No, I'm saying that the common ancestry of a marine living animal that has the information contained within the embryo to enable it to grow a leg demonstrates
This is like...
let me finish this. Common ancestry to an animal that was able to grow legs. You can't simply put into an embryo the ability to grow legs. And
This is like saying
what usually...
vestigial organs or something
Yes.
indicates towards a common ancestry with other animals. I'm saying even if there are vestigial organs, I'm saying the inductive process of reasoning by seeing and observing limbs on a whale and
Which is not scientific, of
and
course.
making observation of a limb on a whale. Observation of a limb on a whale
Yes.
is one thing,
It's
but
demonstration
making the
of common
reason,
ancestry.
making the conclusion that therefore me and the whale have the same ancestor is an
No,
error.
I never said that. I don't know if she said that.
No, common ancestry means
here's
that.
the picture of
This is
the-
what common
Here's the
ancestry
picture of the
means.
second picture.
As well as
It's
David,
maybe two of them,
David, as well
which
as
were all with tails, which had to be removed. Now that demonstrates common ancestry with a...
Historically speaking, David.
Had the ability to grow tails.
David.
Primates do not grow tails. We are primates.
David, can we have a conversation here?
Well, I'm
I think everyone's.
trying to involve the audience.
I think everyone's.
Otherwise I'd be bored to tears.
Everyone's educated here enough to have studied Darwinian theory in school and college and university. What I want to ask you, David, is in the past there have been examples of fraudulent cases.
Oh, of course.
Yes.
Yes,
So
of course.
this article that you present, I've not gone and verified this. I've not gone and
Of course you
observed.
have.
I've not gone and observed.
I agree entirely with you.
Exactly.
But I have presented it to you now so that you
But,
may take it away with you and investigate.
A limb on a whale.
Very well.
A
It's common ancestry.
A limb on a whale would not make me conclude that there is no
Turn the page
God.
over.
I'm going to read this in my own time.
Just for the audience.
Yeah. So a limb on a whale does not make me conclude that there is no God.
What about the tail on a human?
Yes.
A tail on a human and a human being.
Yes.
The other way,
There you
a
are.
tail on a human being.
There you are. It's on
The
there.
meaning. So a tail
Just in front of you.
on a human being would entail what? No pun intended. What would it entail? What would it entail? I'm saying to you,
Entail that had common ancestry.
again, you've made a God of the gaps type of jump. You've made
No,
a
I
jump.
haven't.
So if we observe a tail on a human being, it does not make me conclude that human beings have common ancestry with apes or anything else.
One of the problems is that
It's not convincing.
Going into a wide-ranging discussion here, when really we should have a whole section just on evolution.
Yeah, we should.
Okay, now it's nearly 8 o'clock. I'm
Yeah,
going to
yeah.
open up for our
Yeah, go
audience, and the organizers.
Yeah, I
The
agree.
organizers are going to select whoever speaks. Don't worry, non-Muslims are given priority. So in case you think it's so, David, this is totally not a fix. Meaning we're very open here. There's nothing